Welcome to listening to Paint Dry with Mike and Dan, a podcast about the art and hobby of miniature painting. I'm Mike. Today we are excited to have a special guest who is a talented painter, teacher, and one of the organizers of KublaCon, Michael Klieman. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
You know, not long, I guess a couple of years ago, we had kind of touched back and forth on Facebook, and then we had the opportunity to actually meet at ReaperCon, which was awesome. So
Right.
I'm finally excited to have you here on the show. I know that we had talked about KublaCon in the past. So before we kind of hop into that, can you give our listeners a little bit of an origin story, how you got into the hobby?
Sure. I actually started painting around the year 2000. I remember because my wife was pregnant with my daughter, who's now in college. So it's been a little while. Basically, I was in a graduate program in linguistics, and I was like desperately unhappy. And somehow I started playing D&D with friends again after a long hiatus in grad school there because I was just surrounded with nerds. So it was a good place to do that. And
hold on a second.
yeah,
I gotta ask. So you were in a graduate level linguistics program surrounded by nerds.
yes.
Shocking. Sorry, my brother is PhD is in linguistics, a form of linguistics.
Oh, wow, okay.
So yeah, he's a giant nerd, and all of his friends are as well.
Right, yes. I mean, the reason I was interested in linguistics was because of Tolkien, right? So it goes back. But anyway, basically, I just found painting around that time because it just helped me with my mental health, basically, at that time in my life. And I just really loved it right away. And I wasn't very good at the beginning, but I always wanted to just get better and better. It was really frustrating for a long time because I felt like I was not really gonna ever reach the level that I wanted to get to, but I just loved it, so I just kept doing it. And sort of with time and a lot of effort and lots of classes with amazing teachers, lots of feedback from amazing friends, I started getting better and better. I'm still not, the level that I would like to be. I'm still struggling a bit, but I'm pretty happy with sort of what I can put out. But there's always things I want to continue to work on.
Do you remember who your first class was with?
First class, I think it must have been Jeremy Bonamont. Yeah, I actually arranged for him to come. I was one of the arrangers. It was about the time that he put out his book, just a little bit after that. And I was actually lucky enough, I helped him with some translations for his book too. Yeah, so I think he was the first, especially the big name person that I sort of attended a class with.
That's awesome. Yeah, I absolutely. Yeah, it's funny. It's everybody seems to remember their first class, like or the class that kind of changed it. I guess with kind of the follow up with that question is, when did you kind of decide, or what kind of triggered you wanting to be more? I don't want to say more than, or take your painting to a different level than necessarily tabletop, like to go more competition or display type pieces.
I'm not sure what it was exactly. I wasn't happy with what I was putting out, I guess, and I just wanted to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And really, sort of my involvement with competitions was the way to do that. I think competitions are really the best way to really get honest feedback about what you're doing. And it can be hard sometimes. But I think I think it's the best way.
Right. Yeah. It can be a roller coaster, right? Because you're putting yourself out there, and then you are basically putting a piece you put your heart and soul into a subjective contest. Right. So yeah, absolutely. Ups and downs for sure.
Right.
So I guess one more follow up kind of in this area. You're in, like you had said that you still feel like your struggle, et cetera, on areas. Is there like a technique necessarily that kind of is a bee in your bonnet or thorn in your side, or however, whatever cliche you want to throw in there?
Um, I don't think it's really a technique. I think it's sort of just general, sort of like accuracy or like finesse. Sort of, we were just talking about the GW style, and so
Hmm.
like I'm not the most precise painter. I think so. I think that's kind of what that's my biggest weakness. I think, but yeah,
Hmm.
in general, it's not like a specific technique. Like I'm not great at wet blending, but I get around that with glazing. That's kind of my way of doing blending more than wet blending. And I'll do loaded brush, sometimes if I need to. But for some reason, wet blending is difficult for me. But I just have found ways around it that I don't have to use that specific technique.
I totally get the wet blending thing. Sometimes I look at what I did and I'm like, damn, that just looks like mud. You know,
Mhm.
I just mixed some wet paints together. That's all I say. It looks like mud.
Right.
Um, well, cool. Loaded brush. Yeah, actually, I'm getting my first foray next at Adepticon in the loaded brush. I'm looking forward to that with Ben Comet's kind of the
That
guru of it. So,
Yes,
um,
Ben is one of the most amazing teachers.
oh, awesome.
I was actually a few years ago. I actually went and spent a weekend with him in Berlin, and that was really the thing that like blew my mind open and like really
Hmm.
started um, allowing me to sort of paint at a slightly higher level. So yeah, you're gonna love Ben. I don't know if you met him before.
No, I haven't.
He's just one of the greatest people, and he's an excellent teacher and just such a you know inspirational artist. So anyway, it's gonna be great.
Wow, that is a show in and of itself to have a conversation about going to Germany to take a painting class. That's
Uh-huh.
awesome. We'll definitely have to have that conversation at least at ReaperCon. You know,
Right.
that's awesome though. Okay, so now then fast forward, a couple years later, you're on the other side of the table. What made you want to teach miniature painting?
I just enjoy teaching. I'm actually a teacher. I teach English as a second language.
Hmm.
That's kind of what I did with my, partial linguistics degree. I mean, I got a master's and stuff, but and I think actually teaching miniature painting and teaching language is kind of similar because you're not like lecturing; you're basically teaching a skill.
Hmm.
And so the way that I break down, um, a specific, verb tense, for example, for my students who are learning English, or the way I break down a specific skill in miniature painting. I mean, there's a lot of overlap, right, in the way that I teach it. I think, and I just really love doing that. Yeah, so that's a big part of it. Also, it's great now, sort of because I'm one of the organizers for KublaCon. It's actually super satisfying to be doing something for the painting community and like giving back to the community, I guess. And that's kind of a cliche, but um, it is super satisfying. And yeah, we're at the beginning stages of planning KublaCon now, so we'll talk about that more later. But
Hmm.
definitely the satisfaction is um, is there. That's what I love about it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, I love to hear about giving to the community. I know you had mentioned at the beginning, it was a mental health thing for you to start painting, and we're kind of Dan and I are kind of the same way. That it really is a head clearer, and there's been so many
Mhm.
amazing people. So unfortunately, our gift to them is this podcast. So our bad,
Well,
right?
everybody loves your podcast, so
Oh,
don't
thank you.
don't be too self-deprecating.
Yeah, well, kind of got to keep us in check at some level. You know what I mean? Um,
Right.
if I didn't do it, my wife would, and that's just not good for our marriage. um,
Right.
so along kind of those same lines, could you talk a little bit about some of the miniature artists out there that have inspired you, or actually, you know what? We'll do this. We'll start. Let's talk miniature artists, and then maybe we'll go into different types of art that you might visually venture into or such. But
Okay.
who are miniature painters? We already know. We'll put Ben Comet's out there because
Right.
you know.
Definitely Ben. Um, when I first started painting, there were two guys here in the Bay Area that were hugely influential to me. One is Derek Schubert. You might have met him at ReaperCon.
Hmm.
And the other is Laszlo Jakosowski. Jakosowski, sorry. Um, they both became friends, and at the time, I would go to KublaCon to compete, and at the time it wasn't the open system. It was the what's it called? Where it's the gold, silver, bronze.
Right.
There's a name for that. Anyway, I would walk into KublaCon and I would see Derek there, and I would see Laszlo there, and I would say, okay, maybe I have a shot at third, right?
Hmm.
That kind of a situation. So, but anyway, they were hugely influential to me, and they gave me tons of feedback, and yeah, just became friends. Laszlo actually um, suggested several like illustration books for me to sort of learn more about composition and color and things like this from the art world and the illustration world. So that was great. Then of course Ben,
Hmm.
um, he really helped me sort of understand like light and texture in a way that I hadn't really understood before. And then another really big influence is Alfonso Giraldes,
Hmm.
so Banshee. I took a class with him. I was lucky enough to take his color theory class
Okay. Hmm.
when he was still teaching it, and that kind of blew my mind too. Basically, I'm able to mix colors now, where before the class I wasn't able to, um, and sort of get an effect that I want, and that's all thanks to him. So those are the main people I think
Nice.
for me. Yeah,
All fantastic artists, absolutely, for
right.
sure. And I've run into three of those four people, and they're fantastic people too. Like I
Right.
have never met Ben personally. I have interacted with him online, and he's always very,
Yeah.
uh, a very good heart
Yes.
on Ben.
All of them really.
Yeah.
Laszlo actually doesn't really paint miniatures anymore. He's doing 2D stuff now.
Hmm.
But funnily enough, he uses Reaper paints
Oh, in 2D.
to paint on to paint on canvas because he loves the Reaper paint so much.
Well, there you
At least
go.
less time.
Absolutely. That's hey, the cross pollination between mediums for sure. Which that's a great segue into. Are there artists outside of the miniature world that you look to for inspiration?
I don't really have any sort of off the top of my head. There's the classics like Vallejo and you know all those fantasy artists, but I'm kind of drawn towards impressionism a bit. So I can't really say that uh, they have much of an effect on sort of my miniature painting because there's just not a lot of overlap. But I do really enjoy the way that they render color and light, especially light. So yeah, I don't have a lot to say on that topic, but
No, that's okay.
um,
And and it's something like I've become a. But first of all, thank you for saying Vallejo because everybody says Francetta, and I'm a huge Vallejo fan. I've
uh-huh.
got a couple of books, art books of Vallejo's that I adore. But um,
Front side is awesome too. But yeah,
oh no, I mean
yeah,
the king is the king, right?
right.
But when I went to the Van Gogh experience with my family,
Mm,
and I didn't leave there wanting to paint like Van Gogh, but I certainly left there. I had to paint when I got home. You know what I mean? Like it was just
mm,
such a,
right.
inspiration in a different way, per se. Um, but I totally get it. It's one of those things that, I don't know a ton of illustrator. The people have asked me about those things. I really only know one comic book artist who is my
Mhm.
favorite. So it's kind of funny. People don't always have that necessary thing. So you know what? I skipped over a question that I really really like to ask. We're going to cycle back a little bit to teaching, but how has teaching impacted your painting?
I think the beautiful thing about teaching is that it it kind of forces you to break down your own process,
Mhm.
right? Because you have to do something that is kind of instinctual on some level, but then break it down into steps that people can sort of digest, right? So um, it's really helped me sort of become more aware of how I do things, and if I am getting an effect that I don't like, then I'm able to sort of think about how what I'm doing and what I need to change. For some reason, when I was a beginner, and for a long time actually, and sometimes I still find myself doing it, I tend to have this kind of really fast, short stroke movement,
Hmm.
and I'm not sure why. It's just sort of something that I do, and so I had to sort of learn to be more conscious of what I'm doing with the brush, and that's one thing that I sort of became aware of by breaking things down a little bit.
See, that's interesting too, because you were probably doing it a lot out of muscle memory, and people
Mm-hmm.
don't realize that painting, some of
Mm-hmm.
painting requires muscle, learning muscle memory, learning, especially I think in things like freehand and stuff, it's all about muscle discipline and such. And so that's very cool that teaching kind of helped you isolate and break down and critique basically your own work, right?
Right.
And one of the things as a teacher, when you're teaching, you have to be able to see something a student's doing, explain to them how it can improve, like give them a different process. Or I don't, because I hate saying, like, I always teach only basing classes, and so there are a few wrong things you can do with basing, but
Mm-hmm.
absent floaters, floating on the, those type of things,
Mm-hmm.
or blocking your miniature, et cetera. Most of it's kind of subjective. So that's very cool. I appreciate that, Michael. Thank you for sharing that. All right. So, I guess without further ado, let's dive right into KublaCon. Let's first start. Let's do
Cool.
a little announcement / advertisement for it. So why don't you give us the details of KublaCon?
KublaCon is a gaming convention on the West Coast. It takes place just south of San Francisco. Um, it's been around for 21 years. Um, and the thing that I love most about KublaCon is that it's super family friendly. When my daughters were little, I would take them with me, and we would play games together, and they would enter the painting contest, and there's actually like a youth room where you can drop your kid off and they can play with other kids for a couple hours. And it's really family oriented in that way. And so that's one of the things I love most about KublaCon. Um, yeah, so it's a gaming convention. So there's more than just painting happening there, but we have a lot of nice painting events that we have been running for a little while. For a long time, I was just a volunteer. In a couple, I guess last year, a few of us were sort of brought on as staff, so we're more involved now. Yeah, for the painting events, our lead is Somavia, Meredith Somavia, and yeah, she's great. She's actually a principal of a school, also another teacher. So she's great at sort of keeping us, I don't know, herding cats type of situation with all of the others, all the other staff and volunteers and stuff. She's a good painter too, by the way. So yeah, let's see, what else? Is there something I can talk more about the painting events? I guess.
Yes, but why don't you give me the dates real quick? Because the more we say
Yeah,
it, the
sure. Sorry.
better. The better.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's actually Memorial Day weekend in the end of May. So it's May 26th to 29th, and it's technically Friday through Monday, but to be honest, not a lot happens on Monday. People are mostly just cleaning up. There are a couple things that happened Monday morning, a few games, and we have a few painting events happening on Monday, but most of it happens Friday through Sunday.
So yeah, it's kind of like other conventions that go over holiday weekends. The Monday is kind of the buffer back to the real world.
Right, exactly.
Excellent. Okay, so you started volunteering. You got pulled on the staff recently. Um, how perspective wise? You know what? We'll ask influence questions or impact questions later. Let's talk more about it. So let's start. I know that you offer classes there, painting classes. Can you talk about
Right.
the painting classes?
Sure, yeah. So they're convention style painting classes. Um, we have a lot of great local talent, and we're bringing in one person from out of town too. So yeah, in general, I'll give you the names in just a minute, I
Sure.
think. But in general, they're usually 2 hour classes. Although we have a couple longer classes this time too. Um, and it's focusing on specific skills mostly.
Hmm.
Um, so things like painting faces and eyes. Um, we're going to have a class on weathering. We're going to have a class on David Diamondstone. Actually, is a pretty big name here on the West Coast. Also, you might have met him at ReaperCon. Also, and he does a really great class
Hmm.
on like advanced shading and highlighting. Um, so yeah, so our lineup right now is we're bringing in Chris Spots,
Nice.
who you might know as a spotted painter. I met him at
Hmm.
ReaperCon. Also, he's really an amazing painter. He's super fast, and he's kind of an interesting person to have on the schedule because he does really high quality stuff super fast. So that's kind of what everybody wants, right?
Right.
Just to be faster and better. And he has a pretty successful commission business. He was telling me about some of the stuff that he did last year.
Amazing.
Um,
I like Chris. He's such a super nice guy too.
yeah, he is. He's a great person too.
Mhm.
And then another person we're really excited to have this year, we haven't been able to get previously, even though he is local, is David Powell. David David just had a couple kids, so up to now he hasn't been. Plus, with COVID and stuff, he wasn't. Anyway, yeah, he wasn't able to come in the last few years. But David Powell is an amazing artist. Also, you were just saying.
Yep. Guest of the show as well. He's also been on the show.
Oh, right.
Yep.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's really an amazing artist, and he's a really good teacher too. So we're excited to have him. He's actually gonna teach a class. He's gonna teach a longer class, 4 hour class, using a figure from Big Child Creatives.
Hmm.
So it's going to be a larger scale painting class. So we're really excited about having him.
Nice.
Um, um, I'm pretty sure David Diamondstone is going to be there. Actually, the deadline for people to turn in their class stuff is today. So there are some people who haven't turned it in yet. I'm quite hopeful that he'll be there. He's actually kind of a big name.
Hmm.
He's one of the best painters in California, I think, if not the country. Um, he does really amazing work, super detailed, and kind of what I was saying that I aspire to a little bit more is super. What's the word? Um, Technically, just like
Hmm.
a master,
Right.
right? And then, but he also brings a ton of creativity too. So he's really an amazing painter. Um,
Is Dev teaching
uh,
this year?
Dev is teaching. Yeah, Dev is teaching a lot of classes. I think I really like him to teach his ethnic skin tones
Yeah.
class. That's something that I think is an important class to offer.
Hmm.
We just heard that he's going to teach a class on weathering using the down and dirty paints. We just got a sponsorship from Goblin's Hut
Oh, nice.
and the down and dirty paint. So yeah, he's going to offer a class on that. He's offering some other classes too.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So other instructors, Israel Sanchez is an amazing army painter also, but I mean, he's an amazing artist in his own right, but he has a commission service. Have you heard of
I
Israel?
have heard of Israel. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, he's great. He's teaching several classes. Um, let's see. We have a local painter, AJ Klein, who's going to be teaching a couple classes.
Nice.
We have my friend Roger Mark, who's he mostly paints like Napoleonics, like those tiny little Napoleonics
Wow.
and historical things. But he's going to be teaching an airbrush class, kind of a beginner airbrush class, a couple of those. So anyway, we're trying to get a lot of different kinds of classes, and we're trying to get especially the best local talent that we have.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like you have a lot of good resources in that area too. We're not far
Yeah,
off. Kind of like that.
yeah.
Y'all are kind of lucky. We're kind of
Bay
spread out
Area,
here
yeah,
on the East Coast.
yeah. Bay Area. That was another thing that kind of helped my growth. Also, as I was in San Diego in the very southern bottom part of California, and I moved up to the Bay Area
Mm-hmm.
up here, and there were just more painters up here and more people to connect with, and that's how I met Derek and Laszlo, and yeah, so that was a huge thing for me, is just moving to the Bay Area and being around all these other great painters.
Nice. Now it sounds like an awesome uh, list of artists and fantastic topics. So if people want to learn more about the classes, we'll put a link in the show notes, so that way you can get a more detailed description when those aren't available yet, correct? Right.
They're not available yet, but we will have we have a website that hasn't been updated just because we don't have all the information yet, but we'll give you the website to link. And also, Facebook is a good place to go. Facebook and Instagram is a good place to go. Just look for
Right. To find out more information.
yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think it's Kubla Awards on Facebook, and then Instagram.
Like Kubla painting or something. I just saw a
Yeah,
post from Kubla, like when I opened Instagram a little bit earlier. There was a Kubla
yeah,
painting. Yeah.
Kubla painting. That's right.
Perfect. Okay, so now we got the classes out of the way. Let's talk about the painting competition.
Okay. So the painting competition is an open system. So it's kind of the thing that people are doing nowadays that was taken from the IPMS system, where we don't just have first, second, and third place, and everyone else is a loser, right? You enter the contest and you get judged based on criteria, and so there could be multiple gold award winners, multiple silver award winners, multiple bronze award winners. This is super important for growth, I think, and sort of for keeping people, engaged and motivated. Um, yeah, we have two categories, three categories. One is kids, so it's 16 and under.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have journeyman, which is kind of, beginning to intermediate levels. And then we have masters, which clearly is the more advanced level.
Mm-hmm.
And so each of those is judged in an open system. So the journeyman category is really like the ultimate goal is to sort of help people move up into the masters category.
Right.
So the feedback that we give is kind of designed to help people do that. And in general, journeyman, actually, Michael Proctor, who is the person who runs the ReaperCon painting competition.
Yep. Clever Crow Studios. Yep.
Right, Clever Crow, right?
Mm-hmm.
He explained something to me when I first started judging at ReaperCon, and at ReaperCon it's also open. It's a little bit different, but basically he said, when you look at a figure, you should kind of consider it being silver. And then ask yourself, is there something something great about it that might push it up into gold? Or there are some weaknesses maybe that could be improved that might push it down into bronze? But you're kind of going into it looking at it as a silver. And that's really how I tell my judges to think about the journeyman category,
Mm-hmm.
where like a silver in journeyman is it's a cleanly painted figure that just looks good on the table, and it has some shading and highlighting, and it looks good, right? So these are all subjective, but we try to bring as much objectivity into it as we can, and so if you start to do some more advanced techniques. Maybe you're doing some freehand, or you have really great non-metallic metal, or you have really great true metallics. The face is really good. These are the kinds of things that will push it up into the gold for journeyman. Yeah.
Do they have
And
like
then
best
as
of
far,
category awards too, or because I know a lot of times like so for like the Nova Open, like if you win best in category in a journeyman thing, you're expected to be in Masters next year.
right.
Is that kind of the
Um,
same way for
we
KublaCon?
don't do that for journeyman. Actually, that's actually an interesting idea. I'll bring that up with the team. Best in journeyman. We hadn't really considered that before. We have best in show, which is on the masters level.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, we have other prizes also that are mostly one shots, like not for second, third,
Right.
and those are like best conversion.
Mm-hmm.
And we have lots of manufacturer awards, so we get we'll have like best metal king,
Right.
um, metal king figure, best big child creative figure,
Mm-hmm.
best reaper figure, this kind of thing.
Oh, nice. Excellent. So yeah,
Um,
that gives different types of challenges too, right?
right.
Absolutely. It's wonderful. And so how many entries do you think you typically get? Like how have the entries been?
We usually get between like 80 and 100.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, I think we got like 95.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
And I think it was like 2/3 journeyman and a third masters last time.
Makes sense. Yeah. That
Yeah,
would make sense. Yeah.
right. I wanted to specify about how we sort of approach judging for masters.
Mm-hmm.
It's different in that we don't go into it thinking that everything's going to be a silver. So it's a much sort of more flat uh, sort of way of approaching a figure when you first look at it. And yeah, so um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much more detail you want me to go into. It kind of actually, if you want to look at the rules, they are posted on the website also. We're actually, yeah, that's, I don't need to go into much more detail about that.
Oh. Well,
Um,
Masters is kind of hard, right? Because people, does like for KublaCon, if somebody won a gold medal at let's say a ReaperCon in painters, would you
mhm,
expect them to be in Masters at KublaCon?
probably.
Probably. Okay. So it's, but I know that's not the case for like, I know the judges at Nova Open don't automatically think that, you know what I mean? And so
Mhm,
like, it's kind of con specific, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
and how, the feel for it, but that's cool. That's a good way to kind of, so if you've been to other conventions, if our listeners have been to other conventions, that kind of plays out that way. I would think if you got like a bronze at ReaperCon at the Kill Team Open, you'd probably be judging, because it's just a small, it's a pure gaming convention that we've been trying to inject a painting into for the last couple of years. So,
Uh-huh.
but so that's awesome. And so, what does your attendance typically look like number wise?
Overall, I think it's around 24 to 2,600
That's nice.
for the whole convention.
That's brilliant. That's a
Yeah,
good convention.
yeah.
I can't deal with more people than
Mhm.
that. I think I would hide under
Yeah.
the table.
Yeah, the venue is real nice. It's not too hard to get a hotel room. They might be sold out soon, but it's not that hard to get them.
Mhm.
It's just a fun weekend, I think.
So why don't you tell us
Yeah.
then what is the venue?
It is maybe let me double
Yep,
check
I
here.
do it all the time. I had to do that all the time with Kill Team Open. I had to have a sheet of paper next to me, going, "Okay, it's
Yeah,
at the Overhills Mansion." You know.
I should have prepared that. So it's at the Hyatt Regency in Burlingame.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, if you just Google KublaCon, you'll see all the information you need to go to the con.
Mhm.
Um, I think we're having difficulties with our painting events website, so it might be difficult to Google that.
Mhm.
We're trying to figure that out actually. But yeah, you can go to KublaCon.
Awesome. It sounds fantastic. I wish I would be there if I didn't have this stupid wedding. Why do people gotta like we're still dealing with the post-COVID? Everybody's like, okay, now we get married, like type of thing for sure.
Well, we've always next year. We'd love to have you next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything to bring a convention down, There goes the neighborhood. My wife loves California. Actually, she was looking to move out there a lot. So, a few different times before we got married.
It is. Yeah.
One other random side note with this that I have to throw out there, and I don't want to forget. The one thing we have not talked about yet is your giant ass pizza oven in the backyard. And we got to talk. We can't. I'm one of those people that constantly eats while I paint. I constantly munch and snack and stuff. And so the concept of
how do you do that? I can't eat while I paint.
Oh my goodness, it's just
you get like stuff on your fingers, and
I wear gloves, and I just
you get stuff on you. Yeah.
I just always have some form of a handle, and I never eat with my right hand while painting, because that's the one that's at a risk of touching the miniature. So, but no, I'm constantly snacking. So the fact that you have a giant pizza thing in the backyard, my kids would be so sick of pizza.
Right. It's been heartbreaking because usually we will fire it up once or twice a month, but the weather has been so cold and rainy in California. We were just able to get in some pizza last weekend, and it was the first time in a couple months, and it's already cold and rainy again today. So
that stinks.
Yeah.
So what inspired you to go put something like that in your backyard? Because I look at it and I think of it as a piece of art. So
Thanks. Yeah. For me, it's my happy place. It's one of my happy places. Like sitting at my desk and painting with a podcast or some music is also definitely a happy place. But I get the fire going. The temperature gets up to like 900 degrees. And friends are coming over, and we're making pizzas together and cooking them, and I just love it. It makes me so happy to be able to do that. So anyway, I had a friend who was a landscape architect. He told me about like a client of his that built a pizza oven in his backyard, and I was like, "What? Is that even possible?" And so I did some research, and I found actually a company here in California that sells kits where they just like ship you this big crate and you put it together. I actually had a mason do it because it would have been my first time ever. I didn't want to screw it up. So I had this really talented mason put it together for me, and I did a ton of research, and I was really shocked because the first time we made pizza, it was like really good.
Now, were you able to parlay this into like kids' birthday parties?
Sure. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the perfect kids' party. Make your own pizza.
Right. Yeah. In fact, my youngest daughter is on a swim team, and they're going to have a team bonding sort of party here. And so I'm going to be making pizza for, 20, 16-year-olds in a couple weeks.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lot. It's a way to keep them happy, right?
Right.
Right. And with the beauty of a pizza is that if they can, put their own toppings on it, so they can't complain. I don't like this, I don't like that.
Right.
Yeah. That's awesome. So have you cooked other food in there besides the pizza?
Yeah, I cook tons of things. Yeah. One of the things I love to do actually is I don't have a smoker, but if you close the oven after you're done cooking, you have to don't close it when there's a flame, because you'll get a backdraft explosion. So don't do that. But you let the flames die down and you close it up. It'll keep its heat for the next day. So what I do is I kind of keep the door open and close it and manage the heat a little bit, and then I do some smoking in there. So I'll smoke some ribs or something the next day because there's enough heat left over. That's pretty cool. Their whole, there's cookbooks based on sort of like taking advantage of the way that the oven retains heat over time, where you do pizza when there's a fire, and then you let it cool a little bit, and then you can do bread, and then as it gets cooler and cooler, you can like melt beef tallow to make just crazy stuff, which I haven't really gotten into all of it, but yeah, it's pretty fun.
It sounds, the best prime rib I've ever had was done all with residual heat. Off something like, basically it was, I don't remember what, it might have been a pizza oven type of thing, I'm not sure, but it was definitely in somebody's backyard. But they had made pizza the night before, and in that morning put in a prime rib, and it kind of cooked for like 6 hours, but it was absolute perfection.
That's awesome. You're giving me ideas here.
Yeah, and somebody said, when you said melted beef, and I'm like, yeah, that really is how you kind of ate that prime rib. It's kind of melted. This thing of beauty. Yeah. Oh, I'm glad I already ate lunch, because I'd be starving if I didn't. But I have a dinner date with my my oldest is in college. My middle child is doing a sleepover. My youngest and I are together because my wife's got book club. And so now I'm like, what do I want for dinner? I can't decide between pizza or steak. So,
good choices. But come out to California and we'll make some pizza together. It's a blast.
Oh, that sounds amazing. That sounds like so much fun too. Plus, there's an art to that too. There's an art to good pizza, because bad pizza is really bad.
Right.
Awesome. So, for KublaCon, we've gone through the logistics of it.
Maybe I'd like to say also the other things we do besides the contest.
Absolutely.
So
go for
we
it.
have
I was going to ask about events and stuff. Yeah.
We have a huge paint and take thing that just goes on all weekend. We have like 40 seats. It's always packed. Super popular. We get lots of great figures from our sponsors, and so we're hugely thankful to them. We're still working out who it's going to be, but for sure we'll have figures from Reaper and from Metal King, who does Relic Blade.
Right.
Let's see.
Dev is always trying to get. He's like, "We're going to play Relic Blade at ReaperCon. We're going to play Relic Blade."
Yeah.
And so then he disappears on me. And so
Relic Blade is fun. It's a really cool game. It was actually designed by someone who lives here in Napa with me. So
nice.
It's a fun game, and the figures are like really unique and really fun to paint. So awesome. I really recommend Relic Blade to everybody. Let's see. So we have paint and take, and we also have speed paint contests. And I think we're going to do like 12 speed painting contests this year. And then everybody who wins will be invited to the Masters speed painting contest. And then there'll be like a one person who wins it all.
Nice. Winner take all. The speediest masterful painter.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's see. I guess that's the classes. Let's see.
So do you have? It's a gaming convention. Does that mean you have like games for board game, like rooms for board games, or is there a specific?
Yeah. There's tons of other games to play. Of course, there's lots of role-playing games. There's miniature games. There's board games. They have great stuff at KublaCon. There's like a board game library where you can just go borrow a game for a couple hours and play with your buddies. There's tons to do at KublaCon.
So it's not a specific game convention with other stuff. It's just a gaming convention.
What do you mean specific with that?
So like Nova Open is 80% Games Workshop, LVO Games Workshop. So this isn't a Games Workshop event. It's just a gaming event.
Exactly. There are Games Workshop events also.
Oh, of course. No, I mean, it's one of those things. It's nice to have options, though. That's. There's no fault of it is what it is, right? They are the big dog in the fight, but it's nice to have options.
Sure.
To be able to go play other games at different conventions and stuff. So
exactly.
That's excellent. So we got board game rooms, bunches of gamings that are established, even things like role playing games, painting classes, painting competition. It sounds like KublaCon is an absolute blast, man.
It is. Super fun. It's really my favorite convention. My second favorite is ReaperCon, just because that's all painting. And that's just an amazing thing. But I really love KublaCon. It's my local convention too, so we have a special place in our hearts for our local conventions. But I really love that I brought my daughters there when they were little, and like I said already, and it's a great place.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's definitely on the high up to do list for sure for next year, and we can definitely talk about. We've already started talking a little bit about a potential of something else with that, so I won't spoil any of that fun. Cool. So let's circle a little bit back to painting, but we'll kind of piggyback off it. Has there anything about painting that you have learned by being more active in a convention?
I don't know. Being more active. I think I just find, bringing painting to other people super fun and satisfying. I think it's just a beautiful thing. Yeah, I think really.
I like the more active response too, because it forces you to actually do something with the hobby. Instead, you know what I mean? Like you're actually doing. I'm sure there are times that you want to paint that you have to work on KublaCon and vice versa, right? That you need to paint, but you're more interested in working on KublaCon than painting, right?
Yeah. Well, luckily both are kind of hobbies. So, but it is fun and satisfying to set up a great event or a great convention, or line up great sponsors or something. It's really satisfying, and I'm really excited for the attendees to sort of see what we're doing. And yeah, we there's never a perfect con. Things always go wrong.
Right.
We make mistakes, but in general, it's super fun and super satisfying, and yeah, it's great. We like it.
Perfect. So then now, to continue on the painting one, we kind of start to wrap up the podcast with a few different questions. And the first one is, are there miniatures out there that a miniature you're out there that hasn't been made yet that you would be interested in? And of course, if you've listened, you've heard me say the Stephen King Dark Tower series people. I can't say Quicksilver anymore because I've painted it. So. What about you? Is there any, or is there a storyline you'd like to see something from?
I don't think there are any figures from Sandman that I know of.
Like Neil Gaiman's Sandman?
Ooh, that's a good one. That would be pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, especially if it, had both versions of him with his helmet out or something, Oh man, now you get the brain churning. I love the comic book. I actually one of the people who really loved the show too. I enjoyed the hell out of watching it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and so I know they finally agreed to the second season. Woohoo!
Right. Yeah,
I guess it was their most expensive show ever.
Really?
Yeah, that was kind of the big thing because it's funny. I actually briefly met Neil Gaiman through a painting, like a writing group, a long time ago. Very cool dude, but I've been following him kind of ever since, right. And a lot of stuff that he was posting when Sandman came out was, hey, you got to keep watching. It's got to hit these numbers, or they're not gonna renew it because it's the most expensive show they've ever done. So, which seems crazy given other stuff that's been done.
Right.
That makes sense. So then, you know what? I'm gonna throw a few lightning round questions at you then, because we still got the time.
Okay.
In a lightning round, basically, I'm going to ask you some questions that are fun, and you give us the answer off the top of your head, and you got to be truthful though.
Okay, no lying. Okay, I'll try.
No lying. For example, are you a brush licker?
Yes. Nah. Yes. I'm sorry to say.
That's okay. You're in the majority of the people on the podcast. I think the only one so far besides me has been Anthony Wang. So, and that was our last guest.
Right, yeah, I heard. Yeah.
Yeah. The second question would be, when's the last time you drank your paint water?
It's been a long time. I know now to not keep drinks basically on my desk. If I do have a drink on my desk, it's on the corner. And so it's not anywhere near the paint water. So it's been a
Yeah,
while.
I still haven't learned that lesson. I did it yesterday. Totally picked up my cup. Oh God, Lamy and medium's terrible mixed with this paint water. You know, so I don't know what's worse, with the brush licking or drinking your paint water. I don't brush lick, but I guess it's probably just as bad to do that. Okay, so non-metallic metal or true metallic metals,
Yes.
and why?
Yes.
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 Oh wow, you like them both equally?
Well, I think they're good for different things. If you are doing a competition piece, you probably need to do non-metallic. It just gives you a lot more control over the way the light hits, and you can get the reflections in there. You can just be a lot more creative in a lot of ways. But I love a good metallic paint too. Most of my gaming figures, or like the commission figures that I paint, which are usually gaming level, like high gaming level, I'll use metallics on those. I think they look nice on the table, right? And you can get good results from metallic paints too, if you shade and highlight them in the same way that you would do non-metallic metal. And another thing is, I think non-metallic is much better for photographs.
Yeah.
So why do we have to choose one?
Fair point. Although if you read the internet, you have to choose one. That's all on the internet. It's one way or the other, right? And one is real and one's just showing off. So the gods of the brush have descended and determined that you may only paint with one paintbrush for the rest of your life. What is that paintbrush and what size?
Raphael 1.
Nice. Is that the 8404s?
Yes.
Nice. Always got a. We're not evenly split, but we're definitely picking up more speed on the Raphael side. I'm a Raphael painter as well.
Yeah, maybe I would go 0 actually, more than 1, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know what? I find that if there was like a 0.5, it would be the world's perfect brush. Like between that 0 and the 1, because it's got, I don't know. I love them. They're probably hands down the best glazing paintbrushes out there. Nice fat belly that doesn't pool.
Right.
Anyways, I could talk about that forever.
I know it.
Okay. Again, you're stranded on a desert island and only can bring one type of this with you. Would you bring a heavy body acrylic, an acrylic ink, model paints, or oils?
Specifically Reaper paints.
Specifically Reaper paints. Yes. Okay. And why? We'll do a little free advertisement for Reaper here.
I just love Reaper paints. When I was in grad school and I was, first getting into it, the first thing that I ordered was a Reaper Learn to Paint kit. And they gave me like a little army guy with like chainmail skirt or something. Not an army guy, a little knight guy with chainmail skirt. And I was so excited. I did all this research while it was arriving, and I finally got it, and I did a dry brush and a wash, and the wash like seeped into the crevices, and I was like, oh my God, this is so fucking awesome. Sorry. So awesome.
No, we drop that bomb all the time.
So I was just so excited by that one thing, and just ever since then, I've been a Reaper person, and it took me a long time to be able to finally get to their convention, but I just really love the paints and the way that they are designed. They're really possibly, I think they're good for glazing, and maybe that's one of the reasons why I'm more of a glazer, because I use Reapers more. But yeah, I really like. Nice. Plus, the Reaper people are really great. Ann Forster is the person who designed them, and she's actually local here now too, in California. She lives in the South Bay area. Anyway, I love Reaper in general.
I was really surprised she's not teaching at KublaCon. But
she's busy. She published a book.
Yeah, no, there's a bazillion things that could be. She wasn't at ReaperCon last year, so
right.
Yeah, there could be a billion. There's a billion reasons, I'm sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Such is life out there. But well, awesome. Well, thank you for participating in the lightning round. I really appreciate it. I kind of threw some older questions out there at you, so check your see if you were arriving at the paint ones in quite a while. And so then, with that being said, kind of wrap up with one of my favorite question that I get to ask. Is there any advice that you could give our listeners as they continue their journey to become better, braver, happier painters?
I think it is, for me, it was community, um, getting to know people kind of in person, but not only in person, online is great too. I mean, we're all doing that now. But to have a community of people around you who are better than you is like huge in terms of becoming a better painter.
Mm-hmm.
Also, entering competitions is a great way to become better and better, although it can be difficult at times, right? If you don't get the result that you expected, it can be difficult, but that's also a good thing. It's good to sort of be forced back into the beginner mind, sort of a mindset.
Mm-hmm.
But also paint what you love, and don't paint necessarily for contests or to please judges, or you know to even, well, it's hard. I kind of have, it's not really a love-hate relationship with competition, but it's kind of complicated, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
because you have to paint for yourself, but in order to get better, I think it's good to be engaged with competitions too. So I think both of those things, you have to kind of find your own balance, I guess.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's kind of hard to find the balance, and there's some humility that has to be involved in competing too.
Right.
So I totally get what you're saying. All right, so Michael, why don't you tell us where to find you, and then tell us where to find the convention.
Okay. So the convention, just go to KublaCon.com. So that's KUBLACON.com.
Perfect.
The best place to find information about the painting events right now is the Facebook page, um, because I think um, our website is not updated yet for this year. It might be another month or so before we get there. So just on Facebook, just search actually Kubla Awards, Kubla Brush Awards, it's called.
Okay.
You can also find us on Instagram under Kubla Brush, and we're going to be putting out a lot more stuff in the next couple months. Some really nice photos of past winners and some events that we've done in the past. So,
Do you have a ticket launch date yet?
we do not, but I think
Okay.
it'll be within the next month, I think.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, Michael, thank you so much for sharing your journey.
Sorry.
Your stuff.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. Sorry to
Hold
interrupt.
on. I apologize for kind of jumping in
That's
there.
okay.
So, anyways.
So then my stuff, you can find me at on Instagram, also at M Klieman, but it's spelled kind of strangely, so it's MCLIMBIN
Okay.
at on Instagram, and you can see my stuff there. And probably in the next couple months, you're going to see a lot of advertising for KublaCon there too. So
Perfect. And we'll put, like I said, we'll put links to you and the convention into the show notes, so that way our listeners can enjoy the convention and the beauty of your artwork, because it is fantastic.
thank you, sir.
Absolutely. And so thank you so much for joining us. And we really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to talk to us.
Thank you so much for allowing me to come on here to talk about KublaCon, and I'm really honored. You had so many awesome, just like inspirational painters on this podcast, and so thank you a lot for including me.
Dan and I would like to thank Michael Klieman for joining us today. Really enjoyed hearing about your painting experience and journey, as well as upcoming KublaCon. Make sure you check out KublaCon.com for any updated information about the convention, or you can also follow the links in the show notes to check out Michael's work. And again, thank you so much for joining us. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Listening to Paint Dry. We also have a Patreon where we're trying to provide some excellent content and as well as some merch to our listeners and supporters. So thank you very much if you have the opportunity to join us there. You can also drop us an email at listeningtopaintdry@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. Comments, concerns, complaints. I know we were just at Adepticon and I did hear some complaints about saying I would be on a regular schedule and we're not. Well, you know what? You were absolutely right. So we're not going to say that anymore, and we are going to try to just be better and more timely with episodes, especially now that Adepticon has passed. And so you don't have to have a massive pizza oven in your backyard to become a better, braver, happier painter, but it sure wouldn't hurt. Until next time. Listening to Paint Dry with Mike and Dan is a production of LTPTWMD. All rights reserved. No portion of this recording may be used without the express written consent of the host. The music is Death by a Thousand Questions by Springtide. Download from the Free Music Archive on a non-commercial attribution share-alike basis. All views and opinions expressed in the show are solely the views and opinions of the person who said them. All celebrity voices, if any, were impersonated and done so poorly.